North Vancouver, we have a ton to talk about, whether it's tariffs, the federal election, even the announcement from the Bank of Canada regarding interest rate. Now, this is your market update for the month of April. Now, let's talk about the big T word, and that is tariffs. Now, since February 1st, when the US started implementing tariffs on Canada, well, it's been a bit of a balancing act, especially when it comes to real estate. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out the market hasn't been doing well since those tariffs have been implemented. And not even on the North Shore. You have markets like Metro Vancouver, Langley, Surrey, that are just getting slaughtered in some of the categories. And other provinces and cities like Ontario and Quebec are not faring as well with the announcement of those tariffs. All right, let's move on to the numbers. Looking at North Vancouver and comparing North Vancouver to Metro Vancouver, we saw 276 active listings with 60 sales. Average days on market is sitting in and around 23, with benchmark pricing at $2,444,000. Now, comparing those numbers to Metro Vancouver, we saw 5,256 active listings. Now, this is where the numbers start to dip. We only saw 528 sales. And if that sounds low, well, it is. Because comparing North Vancouver to Metro Vancouver, North Vancouver sales were actually up 7%, where last year in Metro Vancouver, they were down 24%. And looking at that sales to active ratio, we saw that Metro Vancouver is at a sales to active ratio of 10%, meaning they're on the border of a balanced market and a buyer's market, where North Vancouver detached homes is sitting at 21.7, meaning that they're in a seller's market. All right, well, condos are a little bit different. Now, we saw 401 active listings. Now, this time last year, we saw a lot less. We actually saw a 68.8% increase in listings. Now, we saw 77 sales, which is down 18% from this time last year, with the average days on market sitting in and around 22. Now, benchmark pricing for a condo in North Vancouver is at $817,000, and that sales to active ratio that marks whether we're in a buyer's market, seller's market, or balanced market is sitting at 19.2. So we're on the cusp of a balanced market and a seller's market. Now, with those numbers, you can see there's downward pressure with inventory going up and sales going down. So take that at what you will. All right, moving on to townhouses. We saw 121 active listings. Now that is up 49%. And when we look at the sales, we saw 29 sales with an average days on market sitting in and around 18. With benchmark pricing sitting at $1,313,000, we saw an average sales to active ratio of 24%. Now, where I'm a bit worried is the amount of inventory. From this time last year, we saw a 49% increase in inventory when it comes to townhouses. Now, looking at a market as a whole, we do see a federal election upcoming in the next couple weeks. Now, buyers are a bit nervous, not only with the upcoming election, but with tariffs and with the Bank of Canada holding that key interest rate. I do suspect a lot of buyers to maybe hold off until after that election. Now, moving forward, I do expect the spring market to come eventually. It just might be delayed and might be a little bit more in the summer. West Vancouver, we have a ton to talk about, whether it's the T word in those tariffs, whether it's the Bank of Canada decide to hold the interest rate at 2.7%, or maybe it has to do with that federal election. There's a lot that's impacting West Vancouver real estate, and let's get into it. This is your market update for April. All right, West Vancouver, let's start off with your detached homes. We saw 461 active listings with 28 sales. Now that is down significantly from this time last year. Average days on market is in and around 35, with benchmark pricing at $3,275,000. Now, when we look at that sales to active ratio, it is down quite a bit. It's at 6%, meaning we are in a buyer's market in West Vancouver. Now, guys, with that pending election upcoming and the tariffs that we do see maybe it's gonna go away, maybe it's not. The market in West Vancouver, you do have a lot of people waiting on the sidelines, especially buyers. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't buyers in the market, that just means a lot of people are taking a step back and looking for the right time to buy. All right, moving on to condos, we saw 106 active listings with only 9 sales. Now that is down 35%. We did see the days on market go down to 29 and benchmark pricing at $1,266,000. With a sales to active ratio sitting in and around 8.5%, condos do have a downward trend on the market. All right, last but certainly not least, we do have townhomes. We saw 30 active listings with only 1 sale, and that sale took 7 days to sell. Now, you've heard this many times before, there isn't that much data to go into when it comes to townhomes. Now, West Vancouver, I know a lot of you guys are sellers and you're thinking, what's going on with this market? Now, with a federal election upcoming, that's when we do see buyers put a pause on things. Now, the Bank of Canada just announced that they are going to stay put with their 2.7% interest rate. So, given what's going on with the US and the tariffs, I do suspect we will be in for our actual spring market to come in just a few months later after that election. And I do think things will pick up, especially for sellers. Now, only time will tell. And if you do want a little bit more of an in-depth market analysis and to find out what your home is worth, give me a call. My name's Anthony Trinetti. And remember, when you're ready, call Trinetti.